Hello everyone, my name is Bryson Harden and today I'm presenting on job stress theory in sport. So segment one, job stress theory, what is it? Job stress theory is a psychological concept that explains how work-related stress can have a negative impact on an individual's mental and physical health. The theory proposes that work stress arises when the demands of a job exceed an individual's ability to cope with them. This can be caused by job insecurity, low job control, a high workload, poor working conditions, and a lack of support from peers or supervisors. As you can see here, we have a table showing challenge stressors have positive effects and hindrance stressors um, lead to self-efficacy um, in a positive way, and then that leads to thriving at work. History of job stress theory. While there are a number of people who have helped develop the job stress theory since it was first became a theory, two of the most prominent people responsible for the development are Robert and Marty Karasek. The Karaseks proposed the job demand control model in the 1970s. The model specifically outlines that jobs with high demands and low control, a high job strain, are the most stressful and can lead to poor health outcomes. This theory needed developed because experts wanted to know why some companies were much more successful than others and why employees with lower strain jobs tended to live healthier lives. Since the job demand control model was developed, many more researchers have built upon the Karasek's original work. So some theory components. First, you have the demands, whether it be physical, psychological, or a social aspect of a job. High job demands can lead to stress, and then the control the employee has over their job. So the degree of autonomy an employee has in performing their job demands. Low levels of control do equal high levels of stress. Support. Resources available to employees to help them cope with job demands. This can come from peers, supervisors, or the organization as a whole. And then some role ambiguity, how clear job expectations, tasks, and duties are within an employee's role. Unclear expectations of employees can lead to stress. Some more components, the role conflict, situations where job requirements conflict with a person's morals, values, goals, or beliefs. So performing a job that they don't necessarily believe in the cause. Job insecurity, concerns about the stability or security of one's job and not knowing what could happen next um, within their life has a huge effect on people. And then work life balance, the ability to balance work responsibilities and personal responsibilities or leisure time. So here's some challenge stressors. Challenge stressors are the type of stressor or stress that requires effort, but ultimately is going to benefit an employee's personal growth and achievement. These include the job scope, the responsibility, workload, time pressure. Um, a good example of this is someone is just killing it during a certain quarter, and their boss the next quarter gives them more of a workload, a little more responsibility, and it helps them grow as a professional. Now we have hindrance stressors. They are work-related demands that tend to cause the belief that achievement is being constrained unnecessarily, which in turn manifests in strains as well as negative job attitudes and behaviors. These can include role conflicts, as we discussed before, job security, ambiguity, red tape or bureaucracy, and organizational politics. So, segment two, we're going to go over the articles. This is article one, the behavioral and effective consequences of performance relevant situational variables. The authors argue that situational variables such as time pressure, task complexity, feedback, and social support can impact an individual's cognitive processes, emotional responses, and behavioral tendencies. So, time pressure may lead to increased stress and anxiety, which is going to in turn affect negatively affect performance. And then social support may enhance an individual's confidence and motivation, leading to better performance outcomes. They present their own research findings, which suggests that situational variables have a significant impact on job performance and employee well-being. Um, and it concluded with the authors highlighting the value of situational variables. This is important because not every job is the same, and not every hierarchy or chain of command is the same from job to job, which means stressors can be vastly different depending on the job. Article 2, the relationship of emotional exhaustion to work attitudes, job performance, and organizational citizenship behaviors. This article examines the impact of emotional exhaustion on many different work-related outcomes. This includes job performance, job satisfaction, and organizational citizenship behaviors. The authors argue that emotional exhaustion, a key component in burnout, can have a negative impact on an individual's work-related attitudes and behaviors. Emotional exhaustion is characterized by feelings of fatigue, cynicism, and a reduced sense of accomplishment, and is often experienced by individuals who are exposed to high levels of job stress or who are emotionally invested in their work. So, the meta analysis of 183 studies to examine the relationship between emotional exhaustion and work outcomes. Uh, Emotional exhaustions were negatively related to job satisfaction, organizational commitment, and job performance, and positively related to turnover intentions. Using survey data collected from employees in a variety of industries, authors found that emotional exhaustion was negatively correlated with job satisfaction, job performance, and organizational citizenship behaviors, such as voluntary behaviors that support the organization. They also found that the negative effects of emotional exhaustion on these outcomes were mediated by reduced levels of work engagement. The authors conclude that emotional exhaustion is an important factor to consider when examining employee work attitudes and behaviors. The authors conclude that emotional exhaustion is an important factor that can significantly impact employee attitudes, behavior, and performance. They suggest that organizations should take steps to reduce emotional exhaustion in employees, such as providing support for work-life balance, promoting positive work environments, and encouraging the development of coping strategies to manage stress. This article provided insight into the negative effects of emotional exhaustion on work-related outcomes. Article 3, meta-analytic test of the challenge stressor hindrance stressor framework and explanation for inconsistent relationships among stressors and performances. This is a research article that examines the challenge stressor hindrance stressor framework, and it proposes the different types of stressors that can have different effects on employees. So this one was a meta-analysis of 187 studies that examined the relationships between stressors and performance. They found that the type of stressor mattered for performance, but that the direction of the effect depended on the level of the control the employee had over the stressor. Um, so the authors found that challenge stressors had a positive effect on performance when employees had a high level of control over their stressor, so job control. And then the hindrance stressor had a negative impact whenever they did not have, whenever it had a negative effect on performance regardless of employee control. The authors had found 5 hypotheses during their research for this article. The first one being that challenge stressors and hindrance stressors have positive relationships with strains. Challenge stressors have a positive relationship with motivation, and hindrance stressors have a negative relationship with motivation. Challenge stressors have a positive relationship with performance, and hindrance stressors have a negative relationship with performance. Challenge stressors have offsetting indirect relationships with performance, and the indirect relationship through motivation is positive, and the indirect relationship through strains is negative. Lastly, hindrance stressors have negative indirect relationships with performance through both motivation and strains. Article 4, can good stressors spark bad behaviors? The mediating role of emotions and links of challenge and hindrance stressors with citizenship and counterproductive behaviors. The authors examine the relationship between challenge stressors and hindrance stressors with citizenship behaviors, positive workplace behaviors that benefit the organization, and counterproductive behaviors, negative workplace behaviors that harm the organization. The authors of this article argue that while challenge stressors are viewed as a positive thing, they may actually have negative results if not managed properly. Using data from two studies, authors found that challenge stressors were positively related to citizenship behaviors and negatively related to counterproductive behaviors, while the opposite for hindrance stressors, they were negatively related to citizenship behaviors and positively related to counterproductive behaviors. Challenge stressors may not always lead to positive outcomes, and that managing emotions may be important in ensuring that challenge stressors are associated with positive workplace behaviors. Organizations should pay attention to both challenge and hindrance stressors in the workplace and provide employees with resources and support to manage their emotions in response to these stressors. Article 5 is an empirical examination of self-reported work stress among U.S. managers. The authors argue that managers experience high levels of stress due to the nature of their work, which often involves managing multiple tasks and responsibilities, dealing with conflict and uncertainty, and meeting performance goals. Using data from a survey of over 700 managers throughout the United States, the authors found that managers reported high levels of work stress with time pressure, work overload, and conflict with coworkers and subordinates as the top sources of stress. This helps explain the chain of job stress that gets transferred to their subordinates. It doesn't really come as a surprise that the authors found that certain individual and organizational factors, such as job control, social support, and job demands, moderated the relationship between work stress and its outcomes. Overall, the article provides important insights into the high levels of work stress experienced by managers in the United States and highlights the negative impact of work stress on job satisfaction and organizational commitment. The article wraps up by stating ways in which companies can help reduce work stress for their managers, which include providing stress management resources, promoting positive work environments, and improving job designs to help take stress off of the managers. Article 6 is relations between stress and work outcomes, the role of felt challenge, job control, and psychological strain. As with the other articles, the authors here explain that stress can have both positive and or negative effects on work outcomes depending on the perceived challenge of the stressor, the level of job control, and the level of psychological strain experienced by the employee. So this article used data from a survey of over 400 employees in a variety of industries. The authors found that both felt challenge and job control were positively related to job satisfaction and negatively related to turnover intentions, while psychological strain was negatively related to job satisfaction and positively related to turnover intentions. Additionally, the authors found that felt challenge moderated the relationship between stress and job satisfaction such that stress was positively related to job satisfaction when the stressor was perceived as a challenge. Job control also moderated the relationship between stress and turnover intentions such that stress was negatively related to turnover intentions. Job control was high. And that is all for segment 2.